The ninth vow of success. It's all about self-examination. I have been too easy on myself. I have closed the book on each day much too swiftly. Never have I taken the time before retiring for the night to tally up the cost of both the good and the bad that I have brought upon myself during the day. Never have I dared to review with courage and honesty my thoughts, words, and actions of one day in order to better shape the next. The truth about success and how to achieve it has never been hidden from me. I have just been so caught up in the struggle to survive that I failed to recognize it. At the completion of each day, I was done with it. Any blunders or failures or accidents were quickly excused away and dismissed, for tomorrow is a new day, right? That I would promise myself. And I would promise myself that perhaps life will be kinder and better to me tomorrow. Wrong. At last, my vision is in focus. Now I can see that the world is a market where everything is marked at a set price, and I must stand by my decision. Whatever I buy with my time, labor, and ingenuity, whether it be riches, ease, fame, integrity, or knowledge, I must do so. I must never act like a child who, when he has purchased one thing, regrets that he does not possess another. So don't constantly show less gratitude for what you have because now you decide after you got it, you just want something else. It's okay to want more after achieving a certain goal. Once we reach that goal, now you got to reset and go for the next thing, but never forget and never show less gratitude or fail to show gratitude for what you just accomplished. Since the daily trades that we make, trade off in time, effort, and so forth, since they are difficult to take back, let's be certain that in the future that we are laying up things of value, in other words, accumulating assets and permanence for our efforts. So you don't just want to work for the money. Wealth building is not about working for today's money. The idea is to work for money and then use that money to put it into systems and work for systems that will deliver to us without further effort from us. So you don't want to just work for money and then take that money and save it up and then say, I got money to spend later. You want to work and earn money and then take the money you earn and then put it into things that will earn more money on its own. And so you always have a supply of new money coming your way. And at some point when you've accumulated enough, you no longer have to trade time for money. And now you have all the money so that you can save time and use that time for creativity and make more money. The only way that can be done with certainty is for us to perform a special exercise on a daily basis that we surrender, before we go to bed, and we surrender to sleep. Always will I examine each night my deeds of the fading day. In other words, I'm going to always recap my daily efforts at the end of the day so I can prepare for tomorrow. Because remember, we talked earlier about setting goals and directions. And so part of that process when we're setting goals is we do a recap on our day, not just on a business level, but a full self-examination. And we examine not just what we did or didn't do for the day, but what about us. And so that tomorrow we can reset and be better. Now, the very worst of our vices and bad habits will abate of themselves. They'll basically go away if they are brought to an accounting each day. I I mean, it's like we say, how can I improve on anything that I don't measure, that I don't look at? So we need to look at both the good, the bad, and the good, so that we can make adjustments. Because if we confront our bad habits and we acknowledge that they don't serve us, then we can decide to replace those bad habits with better ones that will serve us, especially towards our goals, our happiness, and our desire to achieve and to succeed. Now, by doing so, you bring about what a joy. So, what a joy. What a blessed sleep that you will always have following such a personal inspection of yourself. So before you go to bed, when you take stock and you address those things that you don't like, and then you can easily sleep on them, knowing that tomorrow you got a better plan, you got a better way, that you got a way that you'll avoid that one bad thing. In other words, you want to fix all your wrongs for the day. Now with that, questions will form in your head with very little prompting. There'll be questions like, what shortcomings do I have of mine that I may have mastered today? Because if I decided last night I was going to work on them today, now here it is at the end of 24 hours later, and I look back and I try to decide, and I want to be able to answer these questions positively. You want to be able to answer them this way. So you want to say, what shortcomings have I mastered today? What weakness did I overcome? And you might say, what passion was opposed? In other words, what distraction did you avoid? You might ask, what temptation did I resist? In other words, what diversion did I avoid? Because we know that distractions and diversions are the biggest hits to productivity that there are, whether they're a person, place, or thing. What virtue did you acquire? In other words, was there some new discipline, some new method, some new skill, some new process that you adopted that made you better today? Now, through these vows, I'll say it this way. Through these vows, I have already commenced to greet each new day with a plan, so that we can start at the high road, and that road is marked well. Remember, we talked about goals and directions. Never will I face the new day without a map. And now here, we talked about how to start the day. Now here, this is about how we want to end the day. So with that, we want to end the day by carefully weighing the progress and the problems of our journey. And this latest of acquired good habits, which is the nightly recap, self-reflection, will create a new thought process in our minds. Think of it this way. The diary of today can become the textbook for tomorrow. So everything we learn today that we take down, now we have something to study. We don't always have to study the works and writings of someone else. We can study our own works and writings. Things like journals. Like, see, this is one of my journals, and lots of stuff in here. I look back on this each month. As I journal through each month, I recap at the end of the month on that whole month, and then periodically I go back and look and reread some of my old journals for fresh ideas, which are not really that fresh. Sometimes they're old ideas, sometimes they're reminders of my progress, how different I was like just 2 years ago. I look at my journal from 2 years ago, just the way I write and how I express myself is drastically different from I did then, just from everything I've accumulated and learned since that time. So remember, always will we examine each night our deeds of the fading day. We repeat that every day. I know it's a mouthful, but essentially we're talking about recap. Now in the evening, we want to review the words and actions of every hour that we took during the day, and allow nothing to escape our examination. We want to look at everything we did and said of the day. Did we have phone calls that went too long? That's a problem of mine. I often, especially because I'm so passionate about my work topics, sometimes discovery calls turn into lectures. One audience member lectures, and that's something I got to work on. Usually because I'm giving out more information. It's all of value, but I'm giving out more than I should be at that time, simply because that person may be short of time, or it's a better time for that. Many of you see some of my videos go a little long because I really try to expound on everything as best I can. It becomes sort of a brain dump, but I'm trying to be more cognizant of that, because I know many folks won't sit and start on a 1-hour video, and they know that it's a 1-hour video when they look at the timestamp on it. So I try to make these videos a little bit more efficient and more succinct, but that's a shortcoming of mine. I'm a little long-winded in that regard. So as we do this examination, what we want to do is look at our errors, look at our misgivings and some of our weaknesses, and because we have the power to admonish those things. We have the power to forgive ourselves for our shortcomings. So we don't want to beat ourselves up. We just want to take stock in them so we can make improvements. And you think back on what happened that day, everything you did, everything you said. Was perhaps you a little bit too sharp or rude at someone during having a dispute about a particular topic? Did you give an opinion or a viewpoint that might have stung someone? It might have been a little bit too much. It could have been a better way to say it, something a little sharper. Even though it was true, but could you have kept that truth to yourself? Maybe have not been the right time to say that, but yet we did anyway. Maybe we should have held our tongues, for there is no contending with either fools or our superiors. In other words, it's wasted time to fight, to argue a point of view with a fool or with your boss. Because with your boss, even if you're right, you're going to be wrong, because they may not like that you may have been right when they're wrong. And fools, you can't tell them anything because they believe what they believe, and it doesn't matter what you say. So it's those type of things that you may want to reassess and work on and improve on how to do those types of things more efficiently in a more successfully way, and eliminate those from our plans of action. Experience is the name of the game. And it's hopefully good experience, and that we learn from it. Now, the thing about experience is when we make those mistakes, that's an opportunity to learn from those mistakes. Because experience is the name that mankind has always given to his follies or his sorrows. But it need not be that way. For today's lessons can be tomorrow's foundation for a better life, providing that we have the will to learn from them. I know I do, and I believe you do too. Because remember, always will we examine each night the deeds of the fading day and recap. Now, as we look back on those and we want to make changes, make improvements, we want to review our actions and observe ourselves and see ourselves as our greatest enemy, like our greatest enemy would, to look for weaknesses that he or she can exploit, even the devil. Okay, but we want to become our own best friend. And so if we become our own best friend, but look at ourselves like our own enemy would for weaknesses, we can embrace one and we can overcome the other. Now, I say you want to begin right now to become what you will be better from now hereafter. Now, what can we leave undone, which ought to be done? Then we want to look at that, and you want to recap on that and say, what have I left undone which ought to be done? What have I done which could have been done better? One of the great undiscovered joys of this life comes from doing everything that we attempt to the best of our own ability to do. And when you tried, you've done your best, regardless of the outcome. You can at least feel good about that. Now, obviously, we want to have the outcome that we desire, but the outcome is what it is. And if it was the result of something we didn't do better, we can learn for next time. If it was things that were out of our control, we take stock of that and say, okay, how can we overcome that in the future? Now, there is a special sense of satisfaction, a pride in surveying such work, a work that is round, full, and exact, and complete in all of its parts. Now, even the superficial person can leave his work in a sloppy, slovenly way, that, in other words, half-assed. Those people never understood or care about the satisfaction of a job well done. But don't be that person. Now, when a person puts real passion and effort into their actions, that can turn ordinary, mundane work into a work of art. Often cases. Anybody can make a chair, but a chair, the design of a chair is pretty simple. It's not simple, but it's straightforward. For someone, if you can learn how to put a chair together, in other words, create a seat, create a back, create legs, create arms, and put it all together and make a proper chair, that's one thing. But when you decide, I'm going to make the arms curvy, I'm going to make the back with a certain shape, I'm going to make the legs with a certain shape and size, all of that is what takes a simple chair making into an art form. Anybody can put color on canvas, but when you create an image, that's where it becomes art. Things of that nature, that creative input that we add in, that's what elevates, that's what creates value, that's what basically inspires and gives people enjoyment. Now, even the smallest task, well done, can become a miracle of achievement. We all know that there are plenty of people out there that can just do the most amazing things. I've seen people create, just the Lego people, think about it. They're taking these simple little blocks, which are engineering masterpieces in and of themselves. That's why they still are popular to this day. You got people who can take those little blocks and they've created all sorts of things, both large and small. There's a lot of creativity that goes into taking something like snapping blocks together in such a way as to create unique forms and impressive displays. Now, today's work will be surpassed tomorrow. It cannot be otherwise. Improvement forever follows examination and review. We always, if we really take stock and examine our work, our efforts, and our input, and we review it, and then we can figure out ways to do it better, to do it faster, we will always get improvement. I believe that with self-reflection of this kind, everyone will be wiser today than they were yesterday, and will probably be wiser tomorrow, at the end of tomorrow, than they were today. Because always will we examine each night our deeds of the fading day. In other words, self-examination and recap at night. Now, here's other questions we can ask ourselves. These are questions I ask myself. Did I survive the day without pitying myself? Did I greet the dawn without a map? Now, again, you'll see a theme here. Was I pleasant and agreeable to all that I met? Did I attempt to go the extra mile? Did I remain alert for opportunities? Did I smile in the faces of anger and hatred? Did I concentrate my strength and my purpose? For what could be more profitable than this daily review of my life so that I can live it with pride and satisfaction? No longer will my day end when the sun sets. We can go a little bit longer. After it gets dark, we got a little bit more work to do. Now there is one last thing to do before the end of the night, end of the day, and we go to bed. Always will I examine each night my deeds of the fading day and do a recap. So with us, always will we examine each night our deeds of the fading day and recap. So whether you do it simply or do it with a little bit of, with a whole lot of thought, that's up to you. But the goal here is that recap. Recap your day. See how you can be better tomorrow. Well, thank you for this one. I hope you find it helpful, and join me for the next and final video in this series, where we're going to talk about one of the most powerful vows in all of these in the series. See you then.